Hi everyone, I'm Anthony O'Flynn. How are you all doing? This is an energy update. Well, the pace of events in 2024 is accelerating rapidly already. We're just in the early stages of March. Autumn obviously has just started here in Australia, in the Southern Hemisphere, and wow, we've already seen a number of significant events in 2024, confirming many of the details of my energy forecast that I made at the start of the year. You can watch those on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and you can check out to see how accurate they were. And basically I finished that series with the intention of offering another video concluding into the more spiritual dimension of what I expect to occur in 2024 and in ways that we all need to awaken and transform. But unfortunately, I just didn't get to that because I have just got so much on my plate at the moment. I'm doing some renovations here, renovating my house and preparing for the things that I see coming down the pipeline at a more physical level, a more tangible level. And also all my other projects are taking up a lot of time. So I basically just didn't get to conclude which, in my view, were actually the most important topics of the events unfolding for 2024. So what does that look like? What do we see coming down the tunnel and what to expect? Well, in terms of the financial situation, it is deteriorating rapidly. The acceleration of the beginning, depending how you want to define it, of the crypto market leading the way with Bitcoin is a reflection of the dying fiat currency and the moves that people are actually getting out of fiat currency, partly in part. Now, I'll go into this in this video. None of this is what I'm going to say is financial advice. It's just my observations and what I'm seeing in the market. And you can make up your own mind about things, do your own research. Now, the first thing to say is from 2017 was when I personally entered the crypto market, and I've seen a lot of things over that 7-year period. And I've seen the rise of Bitcoin. I saw this mania in 2017. No one really knew what was going to do then. And by the way, anyone who tells you what is going to happen with Bitcoin and the crypto market in general, pretty much ever is someone that you shouldn't listen to, because no one knows what's going to happen. Maybe there are some real powerful whales out there, some powerful fund managers or people with access to huge quantities. I'm talking in the billions and the billions that can move the market how they want. But for the better part, most people are having educated guesses. The history of Bitcoin in particular is not having enough longevity in order to really use technical analysis or use historical landmarkers and use some of the more traditional ways of market forecast. And on that, if everyone knew what was going to happen in the market, then you'd see a lot more billionaires and a lot more Lambos out there. But what I saw in 2017 was particularly a lot of crushed millennials who had invested a lot of money, didn't have the inner strength to hold, because at that time, really the investment category of crypto was pretty exotic and it was dominated mainly by millennials. And that's not a criticism of millennials, but it is a criticism of people's attitude, that they weren't able to weather the storm and they weren't able to go through crypto winter. And there's many people out there that have gone through crypto winter and they've come out the other side, and now they're really made some serious gains. I mean, there's some people out there who have made a lot of money, if you want to think of it in fiat terms, from crypto. And having said that though, the bull market, as many people are claiming in crypto, won't actually accelerate until after the halving, which occurs in April, which is related to the mining process mostly. But the effects of that have previously determined the price. So there are some historical points to look at in terms of what's happened in previous halvings, and the fact that the crypto bull market then starts for 100 to 200 days. Now, there's a lot of movement. There are some people investing hundreds of Bitcoin per day that are buying in newly established wallets. There are already 19 million Bitcoin, over 19 million Bitcoin mined, and there's only ever going to be a total of 21 million. There's other external factors that is pushing the market up, but if you don't know, then Bitcoin has just punched through $104,000 Australian, and it was even higher than that earlier today, which is, we're heading into all-time highs. All-time highs are coming and going rapidly in the last 24 hours. And really, that's an increase of 60% in just 1 month in Australian dollars. So it's been a staggering rise of Bitcoin. And incidentally, there have been bigger rises in some of the other alt currencies like Shiba, for example. That's up to 300% in Australian dollars in the last week. So the Shiba army are really celebrating that big win. ETH is also up. Ethereum's up 9% in the last 7 days. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not telling anybody what they should do in terms of buying and selling. I'm a long-term holder, and no one knows what the market's going to do. But I will say this. The crypto industry and this asset class is full, historically, of scammers, of grifters, of con artists, and even people who are well-intentioned who end up basically ripping off a lot of people. So I would be very careful who you listen to in terms of price action, in terms of prediction, in terms of the latest launch, all these sorts of things, because I've seen this come and go in the crypto market, and there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of inexperienced investors, and there's a lot of people who have very little understanding of genuine returns that can be made in any asset class, and have this expectation that everyone's going to be driving a Lambo and semi-retired by Christmas after the halving and the bull market takes off. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. I'm not giving any forecast that, although earlier this year I did give the forecast that Bitcoin would rise. That still holds true, but in the short term, it's very difficult to know what that's going to look like. But once the government start getting involved, like Edward Snowden has stated that he believes that a government has actually been buying Bitcoin. So the establishment of Bitcoin as a more mainstream asset class will move the needle big time. What that means for the independence of Bitcoin and the decentralization of cryptocurrency, it's uncertain in some ways. I won't go into that now, but the Wild West era of Bitcoin and crypto could be coming to an end in the next few years. There are other people that know a lot more about that than me, but again, people in this sphere can be extremely opinionated with having very little understanding of exactly what the markets involves, the mechanism of the blockchain, the decentralized nature of cryptocurrency, and a number of other factors that bleed into geopolitics, the idea of value in terms of finance, and a lot of the things related around assets and the regulation that all governments seek to regulate and tax and control any asset class. Don't be naive enough to think that this cannot happen with the crypto market. Some people argue it's built into it, and I agree with that, but I'd also say it's more complex, particularly when you start to go from crypto back to fiat currency. So that's the way things are going. This is also supported by the CBDC digital currency, that they are basically, these central banks, governments around the world are implementing this slowly, gradually, and this is part of the plan. So there will be some form of digital currency. Will it be the current cryptos that we are all familiar with now? I don't know. Will they have their place in 5 to 10 years? I don't know that. No one does. But there is an agenda that is absolutely 100% clear, that the governments around the world are, at least in part, attempting to move to digital currencies. This is very, very clear. That doesn't mean that paper currency will be eliminated. They may be working in tandem with each other. One may be hyperinflated away, so it's basically useless, and the other is pegged to one of the cryptos so that it retains value and is hedged against inflation, particularly hyperinflation. And this also means that we are looking at the other asset classes in terms of this flight from fiat, which is going to be quite stunning and will catch people who are not really paying attention to what's happening to geopolitics, finances, and basically the debt around the world by radical surprise, particularly people that are stuck in the old paradigm of finances. And we will be discussing, at least I'll be discussing what I'm doing. It won't be financial advice at the Navigating the Shift retreat in May in the Gold Coast. I'll put a link for that. You can check it out. Let me know if you want to know more about that. Places are limited. But this conversation really needs also to address the role of precious metals. We're also seeing, as I forecast in January, that the role of the precious metals will become more and more substantial and will start to go more and more mainstream. So in 30 days, gold is up $72.80 currently. That's 3.56% in US dollars. So gold is still moving up, and in a 1 year chart, that's $257, 13.86%. Generally, people would say that if you're getting 7% return in any investment, then that's doing really well for you. You're getting a really good return. If you're at 13.86%, you're basically doubling what most people would consider to be a really good return. That's just in 1 year. Look at a 10-year chart and do the math yourself there. So this is a response to the governments printing money all around the world, the debasement of the currencies, and people trying to protect against their wealth, their purchasing power against inflation, which will continue. This is not going anywhere. And it will only intensify as we go forward into 2024, especially next year. There is a chance that the US government may be able to delay things in one final attempt past the election, November this year, but the debt ceiling in January will definitely go up again. And that could be like the closing act for the US dollar in terms of its purchasing power and respectability and as the world's reserve currency. So that's really where things are heading. So many of these things that I discussed have already come to pass around 2 months later. There are many other things to state around this in terms of the financial situation. I really have got a lot to say on all these topics, but really at this stage, everyone can be taking some action, and people are always looking to what's happening in the US in terms of the crypto market and so on, and ignoring what's actually occurring around the world. Because in places like in Argentina, where the inflation rate's over 100%, and in places like Turkey, where the inflation rate is over 60%, there are a lot of people who are investing in crypto there, as I said, to protect their purchasing power. So there's money pouring in as simply a response to the debasement of currencies around the world. And people who are believing that the government's inflation rates are accurate, then go to a supermarket, check out how much your insurance for your car's gone up, check out how much insurance for your house has gone up. I've seen statements from insurers with car premiums going up over 20% for car insurance. Here in Australia, I've seen home insurance rates going up 10% in just 1 year, over 10% here in Australia. And that's not taking into account things like food and all these other things as well, which are, they are necessities, they're not luxuries. So I will get to the other topics, some more spiritual things in the next video. I just have to go now because I've got a coaching client. I've got a coaching session with a client, so I have to wrap this up here. But hopefully I'll be back very soon with some more information around this. It's important that everyone gets really educated with what's happening here, not living in a state of fear, but living in a state of preparedness, and see that the shifting landscape of what's occurring is accelerating. And this is particularly in regard to the financial situation, which impacts all of us in different ways. It's not something any of us can escape. And it sort of bleeds back into the cost of living crisis. But here in Australia, people are blissfully unaware still. Like, they're still more concerned about the outrage that Albo's gone to the Taylor Swift concert than the home crisis, the cost of living crisis. All these builders are going bankrupt and going into liquidation all around Australia, which means that the The number of homes being built even going down even more. And people are just living in this constant state of distraction and just cannot see or perceive what's occurring around them because they are constantly distracted, whether it's through sport, entertainment, celebrities, even political distractions. It's ongoing. It's just an endless cycle, revolving door of one distraction after the other. And people do not have the lucidity, the clarity, or the insight to actually understand that we are living through a profound shift. And this is just in terms of the economic situation. Things are going much broader into the spiritual dimension of things, and we are yet to see the big shift starting to occur, but people are slowly starting to realize, at least in one aspect, whether it's their health, they don't trust the government for this reason, X, Y, or Z, or they're starting to awaken in one of the avenues that is a doorway to true spiritual awakening. But even at this point, many people, at least here in Australia, are not really seeing the signs, reading the terrain, and understanding that we are in a colossal paradigm shift. Thanks for watching. We live in epic times.